Hello, brothers and sisters. It's Mike from We Are the Saints. I am coming to you again with another testimony video. Um, we love testimony videos here. So if you feel compelled, you want to tell your testimony, great. I will also do testimonies live. We can do a oral recording. We can record it. It's totally up to you. But regardless, we love to cover people's testimonies here because it's proclaiming what the God has done for us, for his people. Spread the gospel message. Just a quick thank you again for all the donations that you have been sending along. It's amazing. It really does help. We thank you very much for that. And just want to remind you too that if you feel that the Lord is moving you to like and subscribe the video, please do so. It helps get the messages out there. And keep the comments coming. We try to read them as best as we can, and we love them. We don't reply to too many, but we will reply to some if we feel that the Lord is telling us to, or if it's something that's being reacted to, then we'll do that. If you want to talk to me on Discord, if you want to reach out to me, please go on Discord and set up, and then just message me as a direct message. And my name on the Discord is We Are the Saints. That's mine. So thank you. Thank you if you decide to do that and you want to entrust your testimony with me, or we just want to have a chat. Okay. Today, this testimony comes from a subscriber. Her name is Joanna. She is on the channel. She's watched a few videos and she felt compelled to really tell her testimony. And I think when you hear this testimony, if you are out there and you have had a similar situation or you feel the same way and you want to reach out, please do. Joanna is on the Discord and she would love to answer your questions, as she already does. And yeah, so we're all a big happy family and try to be each other's friends and comforters and ministry and fellowship with each other. So, okay, without further ado, I think I'll get started here. She emailed in her testimony, so I'm going to read it. And yeah, I will probably comment as I go as well. So Joanna began. She says, "Hi, Michael. This is my testimony I would like to share with you and all my beloved brothers and sisters in Christ. My name is Joanna, and I'm Polish. I was born in Poland into a Catholic family. I have two brothers, and I was the youngest of three. Religious topics were rarely discussed in my family, and religious practices were limited mostly to Sunday Mass. My parents wouldn't even go themselves as they were too busy, and they would just send us, the children, treating it as a duty that had to be done. I liked the church. There was never a problem with me going there. I love watching movies about Jesus around Easter and Christmas. I remember one particular situation when a movie about Jesus' life was on one Easter, and I was just glued to the telly, or television, or TV. I think telly is the word that they use in Ireland. And I couldn't take my eyes off the actor playing Jesus. I remember that my dad came to the room after a while and changed the channel, saying something like, "Nobody is going to watch that," leaving me completely heartbroken. I want to stop there for a quick second. And that reminds me of something the Holy Spirit brought to my remembrance. That's what Jesus did to bring me back. Is he, for some reason, gave me this sense, this feeling that I really wanted to watch content about Jesus. I don't know why, how that kind of happened, but it was around the same time, just before I had my encounter with Jesus, before he came to me. And so I know what you mean. Like, I was glued to television watching the actors playing Jesus and the disciples. And I remember having an impact on me. So you continue. There was no praying at home, and there was no Bible studying. I was as good as an easygoing child, I was a good and easygoing child, the best student, always doing the right thing. Now, when I'm writing this, Lisa Simpson from The Simpsons comes to mind. Uh, a lot like her, I guess, but at the same time, I was extremely shy. I would call myself a 100% introvert, and I was most comfortable spending time on my own. I had spots around the house where I would sit for hours just thinking and having long, long conversation with myself. This is what I thought it was. And this is very funny. But I remember that when my brothers did something wrong, they would be forbidden to go outside and play. And while my punishment would be always to go outside and play with other children. And it wasn't that I didn't like to play with other children or I didn't like people. I was just that nothing really could compete with my quiet place. So I wanted to add something here that the Lord spoke to me the first time I read this, which was, He said to me, it was because He enjoyed spending so much time with you that he made Himself, His presence, very known to you spiritually in your mind. So you were actually having conversations with the Lord, and you were really enjoying those. And so that's why your quiet time was very enjoyable. And the Lord also said that he very much enjoyed that time as well. He very much remembers it fondly. So um, you continued here. I would describe my family as difficult, even dysfunctional in many different ways. There were problems in my parents' marriage from the very beginning. The biggest among them would be this third person, a guy that my mom was seeing behind my father's back. My dad worked night shifts, and while my mom spent time with her new boyfriend. Me and my brothers were toddlers at the time, and I remember my mom locking us in the room when this stranger was visiting at night so that we wouldn't see certain things. And some nights she would meet him in town, leaving us home unattended. I don't know how old I was. I know I still slept in a cot, although I was able to get out of it myself. I would be looking for her in the darkness some nights, realizing she wasn't home. Then I would sit on the windowsill for hours looking out at the dark silhouettes of people passing, trying to find my mom among them. This feeling of abandonment and sitting alone in the dark stayed with me for the rest of my childhood, and then all my adult life. My mom was a very difficult person, short-tempered, angry, and aggressive. There was something in her eyes that was absolutely terrifying. She would force us to lie to my dad about things he wasn't supposed to do, and if he found out, we would be in trouble. There was a lot of fighting between the two of them, as my dad wasn't stupid, and he knew exactly what was going on. Our house was like a war zone at times, especially when alcohol was involved. Me and my brothers were in the middle of this, and the words were going through us like bullets, wounding us so deeply. My parents split up when I was around 9 years old, and my heart was just shattered in pieces. I was devastated. My mom took us kids and we moved out. We didn't really have anywhere to go, so we were going from one auntie to another, finally moving in with my grandfather. That was my mother's father. We all slept in different rooms, and somehow I had to share the bedroom with my grandfather. And then another nightmare had just begun. One night, my grandfather abused me. He did it in the most awful way, as he not only took advantage of the fact I was small and defenseless, but also that I was in a deep sleep. And I woke up in the middle of the act that I wasn't able to really process as a 9-year-old girl, innocent girl. I wasn't able to label it in my head as I didn't fully understand it. I think what you're trying to say here is that you weren't able to process it. I didn't know what to do with it, so I just blocked it as if it didn't happen. I got up in the morning and went to school. Then I was able to go through the rest of my day having no memory of it at all until the next night when the same thing happened again. And then the memories of the previous night started coming back, and the fact that it happened twice made it impossible now for me to deny. And even though I didn't fully understand it, I knew it was very bad. I felt the awfulness and the weight of it. I decided not to tell my mom as I was afraid she would get mad at me. I decided not to tell my dad either, thinking that he was already so heartbroken because of my mom, and this would probably kill him. It's funny now how I thought this would be too big for my parents to bear, but it never crossed my mind at the time it was too big for me, the 9-year old, to bear. After a while, my parents got back together, and things were going well for a while. They seemed to be happy together, and finally there was peace in the house. Unfortunately, that peace didn't last for long. One night when my father was doing his night shift, my mom got drunk, and things just got out of control. We knew how easily triggered and aggressive she could be, but this was on another level. This was violence. I saw her grabbing my brothers by their hair and hitting them, their heads against the wall. They would scream and beg her to stop. I ran and hid in my room. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, all crying and shaking. And that's when my first true prayer took place. I call it true prayer because no words were spoken, but my whole heart was poured out. Suddenly, my mom entered the room and she found me. I thought, she will have her way with me now for sure. She took a few steps towards me and then stopped. She didn't say anything and didn't do anything. She just turned around and left. She went back to the other room and continued beating my brothers. She was arrested that night and taken away by the police, and I haven't seen her much ever since. My dad filed for a divorce, and my mom was partially deprived of her parental rights. She could only see us children with my father's consent, which he never gave her. I knew she started a new family with the other guy and had more children. After my mom was gone, we all felt relieved. My dad was wonderful, and he tried so hard to make it all work. Unfortunately, soon enough, being a single dad with 3 children and a full-time job became too much for him to bear. Suddenly, there was not enough money with just one salary, and things were really tough in Poland at the time. For the next few years, I saw my dad drowning more and more in alcohol. But that wasn't his biggest problem. Unforgiveness was. My dad never forgave my mom. There was so much anger and hate spilling out of his mouth. It was difficult to be with him in one room. The worst thing was that because my mom wasn't there, it was me who had to listen to it all. I forgave her in my heart, and all the awfulness my dad was saying was just whipping me and wounding me very deeply. This may be hard to believe, but this verbal abuse that my dad was serving me over the years wounded me more and deeper than what my mom and my granddad did to me all together. I don't know how it's possible. It just is. That hate was growing stronger and stronger, and the only solution my dad found was alcohol. I got to a point that my dad stopped coming home. He would spend all his free time in the pub and come home just in the night completely drunk. I lost my dad, I said to myself one Sunday sitting in the church during the Mass. And that was the beginning of a conversation with the enemy, a conversation that I would rather not have had. It said, "You are alone." I heard in my head suddenly, "Your mother never loved you. If she did, she wouldn't have left and started a new family." Then the voice continued, "Your father never loved you. If he did, he wouldn't have made the pub his home." After hearing this, I tried to defend myself, and that was a huge mistake. I said to that voice, "I can still get married and have a husband who will love me, and I will also love too." And this was the enemy's final shot. He said, "And who do you think will marry you? Marry you? You are dirty." I shattered into pieces. I was completely defeated. He got me, and yes, the enemy got me in church during the Mass. I was only 14 years old at the time, and I was holding on to this hope that someday I will have a husband that will give me all the love that my parents couldn't. And he took it from me just like that. I stopped going to church. Suddenly, I got angry at my mom. I got angry at my dad. And I was angry at God Himself. At the same time, the anger that was spilling out of my dad started hitting me more directly as I was becoming a woman, and I started to look like the image of my mom. I remember when I was 19 and I met up for a cup of coffee with my male friend, just an innocent cup of coffee. And when I came home, my dad looked at me and this came out of his mouth: "You are a dirty rug, just like your mother, and you will end up like her." When I was 23, I got an invitation from my best friend who lived in Ireland to come and visit her for Christmas. I packed my stuff into one bag, knowing that I'm not coming back. I found a job and got married to an Irishman who was very gentle and without any addictions. We have 2 children, then a beautiful house, and it seemed like things were going so great. But there was something else I had, this huge void in me that nothing could ever fill up. I was calling it the Grand Canyon in me, and even though I actually never saw the Grand Canyon, I was suffering from depression, anxiety, panic attacks, fear of death, back pain, and much more. But the worst of all was the insomnia. I started having suicidal thoughts and anger issues. And at the age of 40, I couldn't cope with myself anymore. I just felt like I got to an end of myself and couldn't find any sense of existence. This was a time when the Lord started to speak to me more directly. I was in town one day and I noticed a poster on a pole. The poster showed the face of Jesus from the Turin Shroud, or the Shroud of Turin. And there was just one word written under the image: repent, written with capital letters. My first reaction to it was anger. I think I even made a comment that wasn't very nice. These posters were all over town, and later I found out they were all over Ireland. One time I had to travel to a clinic for a checkup. The clinic was about a 3-hour drive away, and the posters were just everywhere. Every time I saw one, it was like a slap in the face. I noticed as well that with every next poster, I was less and less angry. It took about 6 hours to get there and back, and by the time I was home, there was no anger in me anymore. Now there was this longing. I realized I really missed him. Another time I was playing Scrabble with my husband and my daughter, and each of us had to draw 8 letters to start with. I took the first 5, and I noticed that they made the words REPEN in perfect order. I looked at it and wondered, what is the chance that the next letter would be a T? I put my hand in the bag and took out another letter, and it was the letter T. The word repent was also the only word I could make on the Scrabble board, so I put it there. When it was my husband's turn, he looked at it and froze for a while. Did it have an effect on him too? I don't know, but I know this is the way God speaks to us. I was completely lost and confused. I started to look for answers, but I started in the wrong place. I started watching fortune tellers on YouTube, trying to find some hope and comfort there. One time, I noticed there was a video in my feed that stood out among the others. It was a testimony. The title of that video was saying something about meeting Jesus face to face. I was just staring at the headline and had this thought in my head: if God was real, He wouldn't just appear in front of a person like that, would He? I watched the testimony, and then another one, and another one. I never went back to watching fortune tellers. I didn't need fortune tellers. I needed Jesus. And suddenly, I wanted him so badly. When I heard what he did for the people from the testimonies, I wanted that for myself as well. And the love they were talking about, I wanted that love. I was looking for that love my whole life and never found it. I didn't even know how to start the conversation with Jesus. I remember that I was sitting on the chair one evening and I just burst into tears crying. All I was saying was, show me how much you love me. I was sitting there for at least a half an hour and repeating the same thing over and over again. Nothing happened, so I went to bed. But the next day, there was something different about me. I had this feeling inside of me that I wasn't familiar with. It was tickling, pleasant, and warm. It was very gentle at first, but I noticed that the more I allowed it, the stronger it became. I was happy without a reason wanting to sing and dance the whole time. I was wearing my earphones the whole time and listening to worship music. Somehow I was drawn to it now. This feeling inside me was just growing and growing, and the more it grew, the more I wanted it. So this is love, I said to myself. If you declare with your mouth, Jesus is Lord, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. This was something I remembered from the testimonies I watched, and I knew this was the next thing I had to do. I just declared it one day sitting on a chair. It was a whisper, actually. There was still some resistance in me, and it felt as if just one leg went over the fence. I went to bed that night, and the minute I lay down in bed, there was this song that came to my head. It was a Christmas song about baby Jesus, a song that I knew from my childhood, and that I was absolutely obsessed with this as a little girl. The first line of the song went like this: little Jesus, please receive the little heart of mine. As I started singing that line, suddenly something extraordinary happened. I felt this huge power just inside my chest that was growing and growing rapidly to a size that I couldn't contain anymore in my body. Now, when I think about it more, I would describe that power as a very strong desire for God. Then I just felt as if I was fired like a bullet and going somewhere with the speed of light. Then I felt as if I went through some sort of a wall or thick curtain, perhaps a veil, with a big force just piercing through it. There was a big light that hit my face together with a blast or a wave that went all the way down through me. Do you know that feeling when you open the door of a hot oven and the air just hits you in the face? This is how I would describe it, but it wasn't hot air. It was love, so dense, so concentrated. And there I saw him, Jesus, standing face to face with me. For some reason, he looked surprised at first. He opened his mouth slightly, as if I took him by surprise, and then a big smile came up on his face. I noticed I couldn't really look into his eyes. They looked as if they were surrounded by a fog or blurred out. I got the impression that I wasn't supposed to see them yet. I focused on the things I was allowed to see. There was this big smile just in front of me, and it was so honest, nearly childlike. I noticed how lovely and perfectly straight his teeth were, and how tidy and nicely kept his short beard was. This beautiful smile of his was touching every part of me. Every smallest bit of me was fully known to him. It was loved, accepted, and beautiful in his eyes. The weird thing was that it felt like the time slowed down or something. I was still singing that one line of the song while standing in front of him. I was just about to sing the part, "Please receive the little heart of mine," but suddenly this came out of my mouth instead. "Lord, I don't know if my heart wants to go to you. The thing I learned while standing there was that it's not possible to lie while facing the living truth. He can see all through you. He wasn't offended. And today I know that we are actually not supposed to make this decision based on feelings. In my case, it was pushing with all my strength against these feelings in me that I didn't understand. I saw my struggle and gave me a vision. He saw my struggle and gave me a vision. Now, there was this thing in front of my eyes that looked like a map, and I quickly realized it was my own heart I was looking at. And the reason why was he was showing it to me. The reason why he was showing it to me was because I wasn't familiar with it. I'll explain it this way. Imagine you are in a room with a group of people that are not very friendly. You know you have just two options. One would be to wait for them to leave the room, and the second would be you leave the room. When my grandfather hurt me for the first time, I was able to kick it out of my system as if it didn't happen. But when he hurt me for the second time, it was me who had to leave. It was just too big for me to bear. So I was living outside of my heart in some sort of survival mode. At the same time, I was protecting it from further hurt. I saw how it was hardest in places, mostly on the edges, and I saw strings connecting the hardened parts of my heart with my mind and all the lies the enemy put in my mind that were causing the hardening. Each string represented one lie. It was the lies that caused the resistance. I saw all the parts that belonged to Jesus, and I was surprised how much of it was his. Yes, this heart belonged to Jesus. This made it easier to make my decision. I put my two arms into that vision. I grabbed my heart and pulled to break all the strings holding it, and I handed it to Jesus. And while doing this, I finished singing the line of my song. The next few months I would describe as being high on love. All I wanted was Jesus. All my thoughts were focused on him, and I just couldn't stop praising him. I felt like I had a balloon in my chest that was just growing bigger and bigger. This wasn't just pleasantly tickling anymore. This was fire. There was a strong pulling from his side that I couldn't resist. Draw near to God, and God will draw near to you. James 4, verse 8. I was fully living these words. There were days when I was crying out that I can't contain anymore. And then I was reminding myself about the day when I was begging him to show me his love. So be careful what you wish for, I guess. After a while, the enemy began to show his irritation. Attacks during the night occurred at times, but there was always this unshaking confidence that the Lord had it fully under control, and he would step in if he had to. There was also always warnings from the Holy Spirit about an attack approaching, so that I could get ready. By the way, getting ready would always mean to put all my strength into the shield of faith and stay still. Staying still and enduring until the enemy gives up. I don't really want to say much about these attacks as I don't want to give the enemy any credit. However, there was this one particular attack that led to something extraordinary afterwards. So I'm going to say a few words about it. This was one of those attacks where the Lord had to step in, and as he did, the enemy fled at the speed of light. He found me lying face down on the ground. This was in the spirit, fully aware of his presence. In the spirit, fully aware of his presence. Suddenly, I felt so unworthy and dirty, I didn't dare to lift my head to look at him. I don't know if it was just because of my own wickedness or it had anything to do with the fact that the filthy spirits had their way with me a second ago. I just stayed as I was and said these words, "Wash me." As I said this, a drop of water fell on me, then another one, and soon the drops turned into a stream of water, bigger and bigger. The stream turned into a river, and soon the river current set me in motion. I guess I'm being taken somewhere, I thought in my head. I don't even know how this happened, but suddenly I was in the depths of the ocean. It was so quiet and peaceful there. I was moving slowly in a rocking manner, just like a baby being rocked in someone's arms. I was moving towards the surface, and I thought as I saw the light in the distance. As I was getting closer to the light, it was growing bigger and bigger. After a while, I stopped moving just underneath the surface, and I got the impression that I'm not allowed to go any further. I wasn't happy that I had heard the sound of birds singing. Sorry, I wasn't happy with that as I heard the sound of birds singing coming from the other side, and I really wanted to see what's there. The light was also coming from the other side, and now it was huge and so bright. I can only describe it as whiter than white, but at the same time, it didn't hurt my eyes. The light was touching the deepest parts of my being. Sorry, the light was touching the deepest parts of my being, poured peace into them, and pouring peace into them. Okay, now I recognize that light. It was a person. This was the Father. I can't even describe that peace I had in me at that moment. I felt like a piece of a puzzle that was put in its own place, and it couldn't be anywhere else. I was complete. I was home. I was immersed in silence and peace, and suddenly the Father spoke. His voice was like thunder full of authority, and it shook my whole being, not in fear, but in awe. And he spoke these words: I love you, my blank. So I'm going to stop there for a second. I have heard this voice. I know what this voice sounds like. It is very much like thunder and full of authority. And it was very loving. I totally understand. As soon as I read that, I was like, yeah, I get that. And I know that you were in the presence of God, but there was a veil in front of you so that um, you couldn't cross over to the other side. But yeah, I understand. He addressed me with a pet name that I would like to keep to just myself, if that's okay. That's fine with me. All I'm going to say is that this was a pet name a daddy would give his toddler girl. Okay. The contrast between the power of his voice and the sweetness of this name he addressed me was amazing. I should also add that the way he spoke was audible and in my own language, which is Polish. After that, he spoke again, and he said another 3 or 4 full sentences, but this time the understanding was taken away from me. I can't really explain it in any other way. It was as if somebody wiped it away before I was fully processed by my brain. Is it possible that the enemy was there with me? I don't know, but I know he got me during a mass once. At the end, I was put back to my bed with the same rocking a baby motion, and again going through the ocean. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out what you're saying here. Um, okay, so as far as the wiping it from memory, that's not from the enemy. Just so you know, that's the Lord taking certain things away. He doesn't want you to have this memory going uh, back to your fleshly body, back to the world. There are some things that are between you and Him, and that's just the way they'll be until it needs to be revealed. I've experienced this quite a bit, actually. So, at the end of this testimony, I'd like to say a few words about sharing the good news with my family. So, telling my family about Jesus was like poking a stick into an anthill. There was a lot of anger, a lot of panic, and running away. They would just disappear one after another with a domino effect. My dad was one of the first who rejected me. What came out of his mouth was another sword going all the way through me. My husband wasn't on board either. Wherever you are going with the Lord, he said, I'm not going there with you. He said one day. We were in the process of separation. And the funny thing is that even the very religious members of my family suddenly had a big problem with me. Soon it was just me and the Lord. And all this, and in all this, there was a miracle that happened. My mom came back to my life. She actually started contacting me a while before my conversion. So our conversations over the phone were usually short and dry. She was a stranger to me, and I haven't had much touch with her since I was 11. So what can you talk about with somebody you didn't have contact with for nearly 30 years? One day I told her about Jesus, and she took it with joy and excitement. It looked like she needed him too. She was the only one that believed me. One day I told her what her father did to me, and she wept and asked for forgiveness. She was the only one who cried about it. The rest of the family wanted me to shut up, as it's embarrassing and it put the whole family in a bad light. Soon I learned how much me and my mom have in common. We are both artists, we both like gardening, and now we can talk over the phone for hours, and it's mostly about Jesus. There are things you don't know about, she said to me one day. She didn't say anything else. I didn't ask. I was just thinking about all the anger she struggled with in the past. I thought, she probably has her own story to tell. And that's the end. I had a hard time getting through that the first time. That was deeply emotional and tough. But that's an example of the lengths that the Lord will go through to bring someone back to Him. And I also, I want to say that whoever's watching this video, and whoever came to this video because of the title, I want you to know that no. So, sorry about that. Sorry, where was I? Sorry. So, whoever's watching this video, I want you to know and to understand that this wasn't by accident. And if it resonates with you, you've got a lot of questions going on, and you've got a lot going on in your mind. But I want you to understand that Jesus is also calling you. He's reaching out to you, and He wants you back. You have no idea how much the Lord loves you. Loves you with a passion that you can't possibly understand, but you will one day. But what I'm going to say to you is, go to a place where you can be alone and cry out to God, cry out to Jesus to reveal Himself, like Joanna, like me, like many others around the world. He has done something specific that is unique to you to get your attention. I would obey that voice. And if you have questions or you want help, we can try and help you on the Discord or through this channel. Okay? So I pray that you were blessed by this as I was. I'm going to end the video now. And Joanna, I do have a message for you if you end up watching this. Please reach out to me. Just tell you what the Lord had said about some things in here. Okay? God bless you, and I will see you in the next video. Shalom.